is yet another video on the UAE E-Invoicing Data Dictionary. In this video, we will discuss about the data fields which are otherwise optional but become mandatory if certain other conditions are fulfilled, and therefore the name conditionally mandatory fields. We have classified these data fields under various sections. Our first section deals with the conditionally mandatory fields for seller details. The seller registration identifier type data field specifies the nature of commercial registration number issued in the UAE. It can be among the trade license, Emirates ID, passport, or a cabinet decision. This field becomes mandatory when the scheme identifier is 0235 and the seller registration identifier is provided. In the example here, the seller registration identifier is the commercial registration number CN 1234567 and the scheme identifier is 0235. The seller registration identifier type therefore becomes a mandatory data field in this case and has the value trade license. BT-UAE 12 specifies the authority which has issued the commercial or trade license in the UAE. If the seller legal registration type is commercial or trade license, this field becomes mandatory. In this example, the authority name is DDA, Dubai Development Authority, that has issued the trade license. We now move on to BT-UAE 18, which makes it mandatory to capture the passport issuing country code of the seller, where the seller registration identifier type is passport. In the example that we are showing on the screen, the passport issuing country code is IN, which represents the passport has been issued from India. We now move on to discuss the conditionally mandatory data fields that capture the buyer details in the e-invoice. Similar to the seller legal registration identifier type, the buyer legal registration identifier type also captures the nature of commercial registration number issued in the UAE. Again, this can be either the trade license, Emirates ID, passport, or a cabinet decision. It is mandatory to be captured when the scheme identifier is 0235 and the buyer legal registration identifier is provided. The authority name specifies the authority which has issued the commercial or the trade license. In this example, the authority name is Dubai Development Authority. BT-UAE 19 is passport issuing country code of the buyer. The passport issuing country code is applicable when the buyer legal registration identifier type is passport and it must be coded using the ISO code list 31661. In the example here, the passport issuing country code is AE, which stands for the UAE. Next, we will discuss the data fields for item details that are conditionally mandatory in the standard tax invoice use case within e-invoicing. The item classification identifier is a code for classifying the item by its type or nature. This is expected to be an optional field in the earlier phases of e-invoicing. However, it may become mandatory going forward. This identifier will apply when the item type is goods or both and will need a specified number of digits of HSN codes to be assigned to the goods items in the invoice. Similar to HSN codes for goods, service accounting codes are codification of the services item type. The standard list applicable for the UAE invoicing is yet to be notified by the authorities. With respect to tax details, there are certain fields which will be mandatory to be provided if certain conditions are present in the standard tax invoice. One such field is the tax accounting currency. For UAE, the tax accounting currency is AED. In case the invoice currency code is other than AED, the tax currency code must be provided. If the tax accounting currency code is present in the invoice total tax amount in accounting currency must also be provided. This is the total amount of tax expressed in AED. In the example on the slide, the invoice currency code is USD. The tax accounting currency is AED, and therefore the invoice total tax amount in accounting currency has been taken as 100 as an example. Next on, we discuss about the currency details. Currency details also require some mandatory data fields under some specific conditions. The currency exchange rate is one such field. The currency exchange rate data field is the exchange rate between the invoice currency, where it is not AED, and the tax currency, that is AED. In the example on the slide, the invoice currency code is USD, the tax accounting currency is AED, and the currency exchange rate has been taken as 3.6725. Lastly, we will discuss about the fields that are required to be captured for payment details in the standard tax invoice. The payment account identifier is the unique bank account number. It can be an IBAN number for international transactions or the account number for local transactions. This data field becomes mandatory when the payment means type code is credit transfer in the standard tax invoice. In the example, we can see IBT 081 has the value code of 30 with a credit transfer type, and therefore the payment account identifier is the IBAN number which has been mentioned. The scheme identifier is a codified list that identifies and categorizes the payment account identifier. From our previous example, IBAN and local account numbers are values reported under the scheme identifier for the payment account identifier. The payment account name captures the name of the account holder person or entity to whom the payment will be made. In the example on the slide, the payment account name under IBT 085 has the value ABC LLC. The payment service provider identifier identifies the service provider where a payment account is located. This could be a bank, for example. From our previous example, ABC LLC has its account in ENBD, and the payment service provider identifier is therefore ENBD. Next on, we move to the payment card primary account number. The payment card primary account number is applicable when the payment is made to a card. This follows the ISO IEC 7812 standard and typically is aligned with the masking and privacy rules for ensuring card security. It therefore allows only the last 4 digits of the card to be captured. With this, we come to an end to this video where we discussed about the conditionally mandatory fields in the standard tax invoice use case in the UAE invoicing framework. In each of the slides, we have shared illustrative examples of data values to explain these data fields for easy understanding. However, the expectations regarding actual data values or formats could be different when the final UAE data dictionary is released. We hope the video was useful in understanding the complex UAE data dictionary. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and stay tuned for more such videos to decode the complexities of the UAE e-invoicing framework. Thanks for watching.